I told you so. I told you so.
Moist Criticals, Moist Esports came out with $1,800 and 5 circuit points.
And now I'm feeling like if you can't do this, you might as well just not play the game.
How novel. We're going to use the ground in car soccer, and this was one of the best plays I've seen in a while. And have it go the way they needed to, because it could have easily gone the wrong way. Who would have thought? Oh my gosh.
I didn't like it. Decks are very frustrating to play against when the person has not had the proper experience.
Hello and welcome to the Esports Meta. I'm Billy Sims, here to bring you everything happened in the last week of competitive video games. We've got a bunch of great topics, a big show on hand for you. We'll be talking about RLCS, North America qualifiers this weekend, the recap there, and a bit of an exciting highlight that happened. We'll also be talking about OWCS, Overwatch Stage 2 main bracket happened. We have all the winners. We have all the details about DreamHack coming up for Overwatch Championship Series' first international tournament. And then Magic the Gathering Standard Tournament, big time, happened this weekend. We've got the rundown, but I'm going to need some help on these topics. And for that, I'm going to bring in my co-host, the co-host with the most, Nicholas Layton. Here he is. How you doing today? Are you ready for these big topics?
Yeah, I'm excited for some of them. Some of them I am completely blind to. And other ones are going to just be me sitting there going like, I told you so. I told you so. Oh, is that right? Is that how it happened? I believe I said something about that.
Yeah, we do like to pride ourselves on being ahead of the curve, ahead of the meta here. And, you know, sometimes we'll get it wrong, but we do like it when we get it right. That's for sure.
Sure. I love it when I'm right. I don't get to be right all that often.
Well, let's get some more times where you can be right, and we'll jump into our first set of topics. We're going to start off with the Rocket League qualifiers for North America. There was a big event this past weekend qualifying North American combatants to get into the major. We're going to do a quick rundown of the winners, the prize pools, and go from there. So let's start there. We're going to just cut straight to the chase on this one. Congratulations, Gen G Mobile One Racing, picking up first place with a cool 21 grand as their prize. Also picking up 20 RLCS points, which is going to really help those that circuit at the end of the season, or even just the qualifier for the majors coming up. A big shout out to G2 Stride, walking away with 12 grand, and Space Station Gaming, tying for third and fourth with the Snowmen. Overall, you know, I got to watch it. It was a pretty standard affair. It wasn't too exciting, except for this one specific play. But I'm not sure if, Nick, you got any chance to catch this game? This tournament,
I did not for Rocket League, not this weekend. I was a little bit preoccupied.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I've read a couple of the articles and stuff like that, so it's it's pretty good. And Gen G just really having a lot of wins across esports this year.
Right. They're really having a good stride. Some of these organizations you can really see coming across the board. There's been a bit of a consolidation, a bit of a free form in esports overall, but it's nice to see the powerhouse organizations come back and just keep at it, keep at the grind. Here's a list of all the teams that were competing. The top 16, G2 Stride, Moist Esports. I believe Moist Esports isn't Moist Critical's esport, is it?
Yeah, no, that's his. Moist Esports,
it is his.
Yeah, for them. I don't know how competitive they are in Rocket League, but I know their team is extremely competitive for apexlegends. So
right, I think that was an organization that specifically went after apexlegends, if I recall correctly. But they did pretty well here. They top 16 this qualifier, so I think it means they net some decent points to get into further competitions, and hopefully walked away with some better money. Let's see what prize money for 5-16 was. Well, some people walked away with $300. Wow, they really placed a lot of money all the way down there. But Moist Criticals,
give you some.
Moist Criticals, Moist Esports came out with $1,800 and 5 circuit points. Not too shabby.
they're gonna have to subsidize their employees' paychecks with the $1,800. But it's Ludwig and Moist Critical are both owners of the team, so they got the money.
Yeah, this was something we were talking about last week, where it's nice to see these streamers come into the community, these competitive communities, and start organizations like this, almost to the degree of Nadeshot. Nadeshot's more of a businessman now, but it is what it is, and this is a good cross support for this. But congratulations again to Gen G walking away with the bag here, first place. G2 number 2. See if they can switch that up, put some fire under their butts to step it up. But I wanted to spotlight specifically a play as I get this queued up and ready. Something that happened over this past weekend. It was quite the highlight, quite the exciting bit. But I'm going to start us with let me start us with the clip. All right, Nick, are you ready for this most butt-clenching, seat-grabbing Rocket League clip?
It's crazier than the last clip that you showed me. Like the last clip that we showed on the podcast was absolutely insane. It looked like it was done by like ChatGPT, honestly.
Well, this one's got a little bit of a curve, and enough of the hype. Let's get right to it. Pop in this, go full screen. And let's hit play. So let's run this. Once again, Smokes an early challenge. Joyo looking for the pogo. So it's a little bit hard to see first off what's going on here, but here's the replay. Joyo with the air dribble brings us down to the ground, uses the ground as a bounce impact to deflect it past the defenders.
Interesting. So we're going to see a lot more of this, it looks like.
A lot more. What was that?
Yeah, basically, here's what I'm getting out of this. Rocket League is wild. This shit just became Kingdom Hearts 3. Like, everybody's up in the air. Like, that's it. Like, everybody's just juggling everything in the air now.
It's been like that. It's been like that, my guy. It is
impressive. And now I'm feeling like if you can't do this, you might as well just not play the game.
Well, I'm sure I'm sure in a lot of other competitive games, they there's different ways to play the game, right? You look at people who play real soccer, an 8-year-old game is 10 of them running after the ball all in one spot. Whereas you look at college or professional, they're spread out. They got the strategy. And I think this is the equivalent here. But this play the creativity is off the wall here. The technical feat here, I can't say I comprehend or understand, but the interesting part about this is that Joyo was just signed to this team, Oxygen, I think Oxygen Esports, and I don't even think I saw them place anywhere on the thing. But either way, like, he comes out with this play, super creative, super ingenious, but like it kind of feels like it's no technical like bigness, no grandness, no grandeur. Either way, I still think it's super impressive. It's not a big flashy move like the one we saw. And I think some people online agreed with it, because if I switch up screens real quick, just to do a little compare and contrast, we've got the play from last time that we're talking about. Here's the overtime situation. Here comes the play highlight. And people were comparing Joyo's play, the highlight we just saw, to this one by Daniels. And like, there's definitely a lot more technical and knowledge and flashiness with the air dribble and the flip resets in stride over the defenders on the grand finals. But I love the creativity. I love the creativity from the last one by Joyo.
Yeah, I mean, it just looks like one person is just is like master. It's like the sensei versus the disciple. Between the two clips, like that's the way that they feel. Really, like one. If the last guy, what was the last guy's name that we just showed?
Joyo.
Yeah, so like if Joyo tried to show off in front of the second clip, that guy would get up and be like, "Let me just show you real quick how it's done." Is it really like what it looks like? But I mean, this is the second time now that we see somebody basically just like really juggling for a really important part of the game. Maybe they just gotta Maybe they just got to patch it or something. It doesn't. I don't know how good it is for the game if everybody's just doing that. You know what I mean? But I don't actually play the game.
So it's kind of crazy in that way because, like, you know, if I'm the sensei playing a bunch of students, like, I'll be able to do this easier because the students don't know how to defend against this. And you saw there, Joyo makes a defender miss, and then makes 2 miss on the shot there. So I don't think this was grand finals level degree of difficulty of pressure, but this was North America qualifiers tournament. He just joined the team about earlier this month, and he makes this play through it. So I think air dribbling and the air play, I think it's fine, but I think you also, you know, have the defenders that have to, like, level up with it. And I think this was kind of a lower bracket game, if that makes sense. But I still enjoyed it. I thought the creativity was off the charts for this one, using the ground. How novel. We're going to use the ground in car soccer.
Yeah, he donkey kicks it in there, right? Like, that's what it looks like.
Yeah. And I thought it warranted enough to look at, because it was something you don't really see, and it did kind of flex that creativity along with the technical skill of the air dribble, like you said. And if anything, it might speak about the defenders not defending. But that's just a quick overview, quick recap of that. We're going to bring us into our next topic. Pretty straightforward, but now we're going to run down Overwatch Championship Series. They're major bracket, major finals happened for stage 2. What's to say about this? There's a lot going on, a lot of narratives, a lot of storylines, and a lot. Venture has not hit the tournament stage yet, but we saw an update in the meta, a lot of Orisa play. We saw some Monkey, a lot more Monkey over in EU, which is exactly where we're going to start, actually. So let's bring us over there to run down the teams we saw in the bracket. So first and foremost, congratulations to Space Station Gaming. They ended up pulling out first place, winning a cool 30K, qualified to the Dallas Major, DreamHack, as well as stage 3 for the groups and the qualifiers there. They actually beat out Ents. Ents took second place, 15K as their prize, and also qualifying for stage 3. Both teams will be going to DreamHack, but this was quite the story overall. Nick, did you get a chance to take a look at the finals of EU in a bit, or were you focused more on NA? Because we normally just do NA stuff.
I was only, like, for these ones I told you last week, I was literally only going to watch M80 win the whole thing. The only thing that's exactly what I said. I said I was only going to watch M80 games, and I was going to watch them win.
Well,
and what's that?
We'll get to that whole narrative in a second, but all right. So overall, the situation was pretty straightforward. Here, Space Station Gaming has been dominating the group stages, the Swiss stages, and then dominating the bracket. 3-0 against Team Peps, which is a pretty notable team. 3-0 against Peace and Love, and then 3-1 Ents. And this is where the anchor is here. Ents is a team that's very well known in the community. Let me try to I'll bring it up here. Very well known because they're all former Overwatch League pros. They did pretty well last stage, but got bumped out by Ep11, I believe. But so did Space Station Gaming. For Ents, we have Kai, Kevster, Chase, Vestola, Ghost, Masa, and Crimzo. So their starting 5 are all Overwatch League veterans of at least a couple years. Kevster is talked about as being the best tracer in the world, potentially, definitely the best tracer in EU, possibly even North America. It's where, go into the Asian region where it gets a little competitive, but there's still a really good argument. And Crimzo, Kai, Vestola, Masa all have their own notoriety. First and foremost, this is a formidable team, and just setting the stage here, this was a team that really could bring the pain, really could push hard, really get aggressive, really press weaknesses on this. Space Station Gaming isn't any slouches. They're used to these competitions. They're also a bunch of Overwatch League pros, predominantly from the London Spitfire. with a few additions here, Funny Astro and Psycho. But they've been going and hitting their stride right now. Some would say peaking pretty hard. But just as the background here, this was the situation. These teams are powerhouse juggernauts. They were able to dominate the other teams and then had a pretty decent match. Ents did take one game off of them here. And that set them up for a lower bracket run. Meeting them back in the finals. In the finals, you can see we have a banger here. 4-3 final score. Space Station over Ents. Ents came out strong in a 2 or 3-0. 3-1, I believe. And then Space Station came back and won it all. And that's where I want to kind of show us a little bit of this anchor point, a little bit of this turning point on this one play, because it is gnarly. But in the interim, while I'm switching over, Nick, let me know your thoughts here. You know, the stage is set here. We have this competition, these two juggernaut teams in EMEA currently, and this is the narrative that was happening and going through the lower bracket, coming back up for their vengeance run, but not quite hitting it. What are your thoughts here? What are you looking at? What are you looking for?
So I mean, like, I'm looking to see Tracer just leave. Like, I really don't find Tracer gameplay fun. And I really don't like seeing it in all these games, for the most part. It's I don't know. It's frustrating. I don't think. I mean, I'm a person who's like, I don't really care for her playstyle or her kit, and I don't know. I don't think she's like really great for the game. But you know, I'm not really an Overwatch player. But I know it's not great for me to watch it. In my like, it's.
Yeah, you've expressed that a little bit before. Tracer has been in the meta as a powerful character, probably as one of the most. Diva and Mercy rivaling that. She's been one of the least nerfed characters, least changed. Their patch characters through Overwatch's history into Overwatch 2. They have a high skill ceiling, so that's a lot of what you see. And her ability and just her kit enables high-level players to put the pressure on. This was an interesting meta for that because we would see people rely on the Tracer and then kind of come out of it and like lean on a Sojourn, lean on a... We saw Symmetra in this one. We saw a May in this one, which was pretty nice as an overall macro of the back and forth of the counter picks. But I'm going to hit you with this play currently. I'm going to set the stage and I'm going to hit you with this play. All right, so bear with me.
All right.
All right, so here we are. We're in game... Sorry, can you hear me?
No, yeah. I was saying, are we at... whose point of view is this?
This is a Tracer. This is a Kevster. Arguably the best Tracer in the world. But let me set the stage real quick.
All right.
All right, so here we are. We're in game 6. And we're on match point. Ents has 3. It's first to 4, best of 7 overall. Space Station is down. Currently, Space Station has the point, almost at cap. It's almost at overtime. But it seems to be a little bit of an even fight here. Basically, Ents is going to pull the win here. We're in the Kevster point of view on the Tracer. So now they're resetting. They flip the point. Ents has the point. They're going to set up. We're going to see a... Basically, they come in. They've got time. It's 63% currently. They've got time for 2 fights if they push it, right? So they're going to come in. They're going to poke and peek, a little scouting, see what's going on. They're going to set up for this first fight. So the team's going to go through this mid choke here, and while the Cassidy is going to flank around the left side. He's going to take a 1v1 duel right here. So let me pause that real quick. So this was a big breakout performance by Sparker. Oh, I went back too far. This is a big breakout performance. Let me get it back up to speed. There we go. By Sparker, he's really stepped up in the hit scan role. He's really like leaned into the team and they're really functioning well. He takes his 1v1 deep flank, beats Kai as arguably one of the best hit scans in the world on a Cassidy. It was a mirror match. Wins that. Here he is in the back line. They turn around for him. He ends up taking out 3 total, and they lose this fight. So now that all they have left, they've got the Tracer, and they've got the Ramatra here, right? On point. It's 95%. Space Station is down. If they lose this game, they lose the match. and this is the grand finals. This is the difference between first and second place, right? The closest people are behind here in this open room. They need to cover all of this distance, which has no cover. And it's not that to say that they have a big advantage. They've definitely got a map advantage, but they don't have, and they have a slight number advantage. A Tracer and a Ramattra coming here. So what I want you to look at, we're going to run the play and then we're going to watch it back real quick, all right? We're going to see Funny Astro and Lucio coming for the touch. He's got 3 seconds. He gets the touch. He gets cleansed. He beats the stay on to get the second touch and give time for the rest of the team to come in. And then now they dance on the point. That was it. Now Psycho comes in against the best Tracer in the world, comes in and then rolls the team. The micro moments here in this play are insane, and I wish I'd bring us more into the fight a little bit specifically, but I'm gonna run it back again. All right. So there's a lot that happens here. Nick, what are you seeing? What are you thinking?
Someone just fell off the map. That's what it felt like. They just went off the map if you rewind it. But they just got pushed back. It doesn't look like they were positioning well. Like overall, they weren't ready for a push, is what it looked like, and then they got surprised by the push, and then they just ran off the point. Like it's really what it looks like.
So that was a previous situation. Basically, it was a replay showing that the tank cut his losses on the previous fight, jumped off the point, not giving them ult charge. Basically,
got it.
Here and then from here out is the play. So here's Sparker.
Right.
Here's Sparker on the back. They flip the point. He takes out. He gets taken out. He takes out the Lucio. He gets taken out. It's a 3K. Now we're here. So again, I want to try to run this slow-mo. Playback speed. Let's go quarter speed.
Play it, right? Like there's 2 people near the point, right? Out of a 5-person team. And I don't know where the other players are.
All right,
Normally I'd be able to see exactly where the players are because they would be somewhere near the point in general, right? Like.
All right, here we go. So I turned on the telestration to kind of demonstrate here. Let me get an appropriate color that we can see. Let's do white. Easy peasy. Does that not work? Okay. We'll do it that way. All right. Correct the brush. All right. So here's the situation. Sparker's dead. 4 people. These are the 4 people that can possibly touch. There's 96%. Percent runs 1% per second. So they have 4 seconds to touch the point to get into overtime. Really at 97, at 3 seconds before the the game ends, the round ends, that's when you need to get the touch on. So 97, between 97 and 100. They're at 96. The closest person to this is the Lucio.
Coming from all the way. Lucio's going to be back though. Like even a bad player knows that the Lucio is going to be the first person to try to contest the point because of how fast he is.
And like this situation too, it kind of depends on when the Lucio died. The Lucio died kind of first, so they were able to like amp out of spawn, use their speed, use a rollout. Funny Astro hits this rollout really well, but what he's going to do is he's going to hit this rollout. He's got to traverse this open area and then get to here because this is the quickest point. He's got 4 seconds to do that. You've got the Tracer marking him, and he's going to start putting the pressure on, and then the Ramattra also basically going to do the same. He's going to come from the point here, and he's going to move on into business up there. There we go. That made it worse. There we go. All right. So he's going to come from over there, and he's going to try to also stuff him. And Ramattra has that ground vortex that's going to like stop his wall riding. So this is a very not ideal situation, but it's still doable as we see. So let me take this off. Let me run. So here's slow motion. He's coming. Tracer's marking him. Tracer backs up a little bit, just trying to pepper and defend the point. Vortex goes down. Didn't put Vortex down until now. But I think the big thing that we miss here is that Astro gets hit. I'm going to play this again at full speed. Astro gets hit with a very, very, very well-timed Suzu from the Kiriko. And that allows him to stay there. So here's the previous play. Let me just get us back up to speed because it's a right. They push in, they're going to lose this fight. Here's Kai taking the 1v1, a little bit surprised by Sparker. Sparker winning out, taking out one, now two, and then he's going to get Masa for the third. There's Masa, and now he goes down. So now we go back and reset to where we were. Tracer, Ramacha. Lucio's going to come in. Let me slow this down again.
See, so that's where they were.
Yeah. So they're all coming in from this part. We're watching the POV of the Lucio now, of Funny Astro. Funny Astro amps. He's got the speed boost. He's going in. He's going to try to hit the point. Right here, he's not close. Vestola goes Nemesis form, which might have messed it up for them. If he put down Vortex, he might have been able to save it, but I don't know if he had Vortex on cooldown or not. Kevster wasn't able to pepper him, but like he's at 174 HP, not full. He gets down to about half. And now you see on the side of the screen, you see the white screen effect here. That's a Suzu. That's Kiriko. Kiriko Suzu him, so and then you can see him on the back right. He's coming in a lot slower. Able to Suzu him, able to then heal him back up to about 75%. Kevster, the Tracer, as well as Vestola, the Ramatra, keep putting the pressure on him. They drop a Vortex on him finally. They put more damage in. He gets his ultimate, beats immediately. In fact, the Vortex helps him pulls him to the ground quicker. He goes from 50% health back up to like infinite health because of the beat. They touch the point. Space Station's Tracer, Psycho, comes in on the left here. So now Vestola and Kevster need to retreat because now it's a threat. It's a 3v2. And from here, that micro play of the Suzu and the rollout changed the game and it allowed them to win. I can't emphasize enough how crazy this is, the micro on that.
It's also because, Ents messed up the previous fight. Even though they survived and won that previous fight, I guess you can consider them winning because everybody they gained the point. Because of that, everybody else was nowhere to be found, and they were able to just get there. So they staggered the backs. They probably should have just backed off, honestly, instead of really just trying to play the full point and trying to guard the point. They should have just backed off and just fought contesting it instead of really trying to hold the point in the previous fight.
Right. It's a tricky situation. They backed off, but it's a 99-99 situation, so they kind of can't. You have to be there to touch. You have to hold your... Yeah. What really messed it up was that Sparker was able to get that 3K and really put those guys in the spawn room, and that created enough of an advantage where Funny Astro went into a 1v2 and was able to touch. And then the Kiriko helped them stay alive, so it stayed a 1v2 and became a 2v2. Then Psycho showed up as the third fastest character in this rollout with the Tracer, and it became a 3v2. That's when it was that advantage quickly turned into a disadvantage. That's when it needed to back up, but that's also when Vestola just got murdered because they all focused the tank and he had no help. He had no healing help when it was a DPS and two healers versus DPS and two healers. So super crazy moment, super quick flip on a dime. These are some of the best in the world, and this was one of the best plays I've seen in a while. Just so quick and probably a no-brainer thing, but just for them to execute all the little minutia and have it go the way they needed to, because it could have easily gone the wrong way. Could have easily just...
Not what I'm about to say doesn't discount how good Sparker is and how well he did. It looked like they just disrespected him. They were just yeah, he's not, and then he...
Sparker took the 3K in the fight before this. Are you speaking about somebody else? Or?
No, I'm saying overall in the match, since he's relatively new, They probably just underestimated them, and then it just ended up like
right
winning.
That mental
moment, that's all.
This is a team that scrims each other. These are teams that scrimmed each other all the time and competitive. And like this was the team that knows each other well. Space Station and Sparker have been rolling pretty hard. So I don't know how much they're discounting, but like, yeah, they discounted him going on a flank like that. He took that 1v1, won, and then kept rolling. And like that was it. It could have easily been a 4-2 in Ence's favor and a $30,000 prize pool rather than the 15. But that turned the tables and ended up in a 4-3 with Space Station Gaming taking the win on that one. So big congrats to those boys. Huge play. Love to see it. Love to break it down. But we got a lot more to get into, so I'm going to switch over really quickly unless you have a last point to make.
No.
All right, cool. Well, we talk about mostly our NA side here, and we've got a little bit to talk about right now, so let me bring that up. Just first and foremost, congrats to the Toronto Defiant. Who would have thought? Oh my gosh. Toronto Defiant coming out first place, pulling 250. Is it 250? No, it's got to be more than that. Do I have the right time frame? Main event stage 1. Okay, that's correct. 30 grand, pulling 500 points, going to the Dallas Major, winning first place, beating M80 in the finals, but there is drama. We love it. We love to see it. There's a bit of a narrative I want to pull us through. Nick, you got to see a bit of these boys play? Because we did see some M80 winning, and you said you're going to watch M80 win.
Yeah, no, I mean, like they won way more than what I would assume people expected, especially like, what was it, the first time that they put what's it into the losers?
So yeah, last stage they came in an hour before, so like you could see them warming up, getting their feet on the ground, getting into the swing of it and into the competition, and then we'll run down here how they looked in this bracket. So we were looking at this last week, talking about our predictions, and M80 ended up playing Luminosity Gaming in the second round, and M80 3-0'd Luminosity, which I was a bit surprised by, but, makes sense. You had your money on M80. Congratulations. You were right. We promised you'd have some moments where you'd be right this episode.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's just a shame that Toronto Defiant bought the win. And just paid M80 a good amount of money in order to just take the loss. Okay, though.
Right. They were looking for more content. They're looking for, those ad revenue dollars, because more streams equals more views, and more views equals more money. Hey, remember to subscribe and like.
Yeah, they're still the underdog story right now. So, like, we'll see. We'll see when it's their time to shine. Right.
And like with this narrative, Toronto Defiant, like we said, beats Citrus Nation 3-0, beats Student of the Game. Student of the Game did pretty well. They looked like it had some fight in them, but they just couldn't overcome that moment, especially in the first time they play. A bit of a vengeance match because Toronto ended up in the losers bracket. So M80 comes out strong from after beating Luminosity in the 3-0, and then they 3-1 Toronto. Not just beat them, but like pretty much handed their asses to them. It looked pretty sloppy on the Defiant part. A lot of talk about the DPSs not showing up for that match. Maybe they were off. Maybe they weren't vibing. Maybe they were trying something. Maybe they just didn't expect it. We can make all these excuses, but at the end of the day, they got the L on this one. And they went down to the lowers bracket. From the losers bracket, they play against Students of the Game, who did pretty well, ending up in third place total here. Something that I think we both expected but didn't expect when we were at predictions. If you recall real quickly what some of our predictions might have been, but I see you're having a sneezing fit. Maybe because you don't want to talk about this. I see how it is.
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about it. I didn't have Students of the Game, I don't think. But I mean, I had Luminosity losing. I think you had Who is Goldfish. You were like, I think Who is Goldfish could do something. And you were wrong there, definitely.
Hey man, I checked the tape. You were bullish on who is Goldfish. Don't try to bury that that dead goldfish.
I don't know who we had for. I don't think I picked anybody for the students of the game or Pirates in Pajamas because I said it didn't matter because Toronto Defiant was going to beat them and go all the way to the end.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, like, I think I thought FMCL because they remind me of Fooly Cooley. I thought they would go farther, definitely.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, it ended up being Toronto Defiant taking it in the end. They did have a little bit of turbulence, like you said, which was unexpected by us. And even with our fun picks, we did not see that happening where M80 come out over Toronto. Knocking Toronto down the lower bracket, but then let me move this a little bit so we can see a bit better. Toronto Defiant had something to prove on the next day, and then they ended up 4-1-ing M80. But so that might have been a little bit unexpected, but we did have, a little bit expected, but that's not the only narrative that we had here, which was a bit fun. A bit of the unexpected. We had some spicy coach banter that was sponsored by, let's say it stayed sponsored by Overwatch, by Blizzard themselves. I'm going to bring up the tape real quick, but any final thoughts on this stage, Nick, and what we're expecting going into DreamHack with these teams?
I mean, like, this is the cool thing, right? Like, M80 is on the not really the underdog story, considering like they're seemingly overperforming time and time again. And then they did really, really well against Toronto Defiant on the first set of matches. The second set of matches went exactly how the 1.5 times ago happened, right? Like it feels like a repeat. So I mean, like it's really interesting. Like, what was there something that they did in the first set that is actionable and repeatable that helped them like win over Toronto? Was there something that they were doing that like we're not seeing yet? That like maybe somebody will break down and we'll figure it out.
Right. Is there something more to it?
Yeah, like were they stepping up or was Toronto stepping down? Right. Like really, like what was the reason for everything? Because this is not how a tier really works. They're not going to have crazy fluctuations in this, and it just seems like Toronto probably dropped the ball rather than like anything else.
Right, but like it is showing the spark for competition here. It's a lot more than just 3 Overwatch, and it's going to be really interesting when we get all the regions together in this international tournament at DreamHack. I do think M80 had the spice. They had the fire in them. They had that dog in them. Their DPS showed up and they hit shots. They made opportunities, and I think maybe that's where, I don't want to say Toronto fully like stepped away, but I think that's a lot of maybe what happened. They didn't get rattled. They didn't get rustled, but M80 was the more aggressor in the first match as compared to the second one. And then Toronto was like, okay, no, this is our server. But we have a little bit of the preamble to those matches, and more or less just setting the stage here. It's a clip of the broadcast, and we had some banter by coaches, some state-sponsored. The broadcast brought them on, invited them on, and asked them some questions, and did it in a group interview style, so they were able to converse with each other. And I kind of want to get your overall vibe on that. What do you feel? So I'm going to play this clip, and I want to get your vibe on it. Okay, so let's roll the.
Whatever you want to call it, Christopher and Gunda are calling in here for a quick chat before their teams are going at it. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for taking the time. But let's hear it. This is a rematch. Space Station Gaming, of course, had the luxury of just waiting it out in the grand finals and watching ENCE play in the lower bracket today. Christopher, what were your takeaways from that match that ENCE just played? Do you think they look hungry to take you down, question mark?
I mean, it went exactly how I thought it would, like the games would be close up until it was winnable for Peps, then one of their supports would actively grief the game and hit the 3-0.
My turn. I think this question, I want to ask both of you guys because this is a rematch from yesterday. But how confident are you guys that your team could beat the other team today? I mean, of course, Christopher, you guys already beat Ends, but how confident are you that you guys could beat Ends one more time? And for Gumba, you guys did lose yesterday, but today, I mean, you guys are looking good right now. How confident are you that you guys could beat Space Station for this match?
Yeah, pretty confident. I think, last time we had the upper bracket advantage. We're in SSG's position. We lost easily, I think 4-1. So if we take that as a pattern of a sample size of 1, that means we should win this time. Look, I think the pressure's on them. I think at the end of the day, for most of their players, other than Fanyastra, I think this is potentially the first big tournament they're ever going to have won. It's such a big moment in their career after 6 years of committed trying. They've been trying for such a long time. The pressure's not really on us. We're going to Dallas anyway. Our players have won so many tournaments. I think we have the experience where it counts, and it's going to be on them to prove that they can show up when it matters. We are the underdog at the end of the day. But as we saw yesterday, they can bleed even in this meta. That's really, really good for them. So I think if SSG choke this one, we have to start asking questions about their players.
Christopher, what do you think?
Some spice going on right here, a little bit of narrative.
The narrative that he's pushing, it makes no sense to really talk about pressure when he's starting with Crimzo in the lineup, no matter what happens, that guy is guaranteed good for map 5 to actively, do what he did yesterday, first death, chitting 7 times in a row. Interesting hearing him talk about how many championships his teams have won, considering, I don't know, apart from Kevster, did anyone actually win any? But no, I'm also good at pattern recognition. We beat them in Swiss, we beat them yesterday, we've beat them all weekend scrims, so I think we're good to go.
That's a bigger sample size too, so if we're running the numbers here.
Right, so that's pretty much the gist of it. And Nick, just initially, what's your thoughts on this?
Trash. It's weak. It's absolute weak trash talk. First thought, it feels like I don't know how to say it nice. But you'll be hanging out with your friends, and then those two friends just start arguing with each other again, right? And they're not really saying anything. They're just saying things that might have happened like that. And half of it was just facts of but we're already going to DreamHack. Congratulations. That's not really a good. It just seems a little cringy to me. It doesn't really seem like too much like trash talk. It just seems like overall coerced cringe, right? A little bit of CC right there. I didn't like it. I didn't like it, but I'm also not one of their players. The first guy started for SSA or whatever started to trash talk a little bit when he was one of the supports was gonna throw the game or something like that, right? Yeah. A good trash talk would be I think this player is going to be the one that does nothing this game or something along those lines, right? I think it was real weak. And it's a first attempt, it looks like, for Overwatch to get people.
Exactly. So generally speaking, this was a first foyer. These two coaches are well known for their shit talk, for their analytical, for their practical, logistical minds, and unironically, their shit talk. This was the first foray of shit talk on a broadcast. This is also the first foray of shit talk acceptance. If that term makes any sense, because for Overwatch, the community is very touch and go when it comes to this. We're going to see another coach, another segment of this basically, and he has a history of trash talking. And we've talked before, there is proper ways of doing trash talk, and this seems to be entry level. They know what they're doing. They're not really going in on each other, but they also understand that the community is a little touchy with this. So I appreciated this. I liked it. I like this little political campaign of trying to push the community into some banter, into some fun things, because a lot of the times they're quiet during the game and then they're loud after they won. and they stay quiet if they lose, like the fans, and traditionally an Overwatch League has been. And like maybe it's the demographic that plays, maybe it's just the culture of the game overall. But like you go to something like CS:GO, they're calling each other see you next Tuesdays and using F-bombs on stage. Call of Duty actively teabagging, tactical crouching.
There's a reason for that. We're in America, and we fucking suck at this. Okay? Like, literally, CSGO is a European game. That's why we can use the see you next Tuesdays, okay? The smooth sound of a baseball bat. Like, we can literally, like, you can use that sort of thing because it's not very American to just be cursing. Like, you know, a cop will want to arrest you for cursing, but if you say any curses in England, they're going to be like, okay, have a good one. Like, it's like your curse. Congratulations. But I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't like I guess I already know your opinion, right? Like you like this part with the coaches. I hate when coaches trash talk. I don't like. I only like it maybe at like the thing right before like the major, like the most prolific event of the year. I have no problem with coaches talking about it going into like a world situation or like, you know, the World Cup or something along those lines. Other than that, I want to hear about players. Like I want to hear what one support thinks of another player who plays, you know, Lucio. You guys are both renowned Lucio players. What do you guys think of each other? But like, they might not do it because Overwatch is. I don't even want to say it's Overwatch players, right? Because I do think, like I've said this to you before, I have really toxic experiences in Overwatch on a regular basis.
Ranked play is a much different beast.
Yeah, I mean, this is a league player talking. Like it's super toxic in Overwatch compared to what I deal with. But I just think I think it's Blizzard games in general. Yeah. Like Blizzard is a little bit too much.
That's the point I was going to bring in. PR. A lot of lawyers, a lot of marketing reps, a lot of publicists coming out. And I think a lot of the gaming culture, the organization in Overwatch League was focused on that. There was a lot of instances and situations where players couldn't have personalities. And like, granted, you're talking about these 17, 18-year-old kids whose brains haven't fully formed, haven't totally cooked. They're not fully baked in that. So they're not going to have total impulse control. So like, some things are definitely outlandish and don't really need to happen. The M80 situation at the beginning of stage 1 here for Overwatch Championship Series, basically just getting caught saying the N-word a bunch and like for no apparent reason other than just to do it. Old news, but like that's what I'm also saying is like when you have young kids with no impulse control, they don't know the difference in nuance. So here I appreciate the coaches doing it and trying to pull the community into that, pull it away from the Blizzard PR sort of stuff going. I do feel like it's much more tactical and impactful rather than just going F-bomb kind of stuff, brash, belligerent cursing. I do feel like that's stronger trash talk overall if you can kind of really, you know, get in them like we saw for the league tournament a couple weeks ago for the major. He's like, you still have an import slot, meaning your job's at risk. Like that clever trash talk mid-match player to player, I'd love to see happen in Overwatch. I would love to see more of that, but there's so much that has to happen for that to happen. CSGO is also a much older demographic esport, and it's an older esport in general. It's been around for 10, 15, almost 20 years.
Like, I mean, yes, but like also like a lot of American esports players they're paper. They're 100% made out of paper. They are like time and time again, like trash talking doesn't have to always be out of anger or out of like superiority, right? Like you could literally just tell a person who's better than you, just like, you suck. Haha. Like, right. Like it doesn't even matter. Like you can literally just do that. Like have like funny banter. Like I remember becoming best friends with a French guy on Xbox Live because he was on the other team. I swear to God, he was on the other team at Halo. And I was like, I'm not going to lose to no fucking Frenchman. right? And then like we boarded up, whooped butt. And then like that, and then afterwards, I was like, I told you I wasn't gonna lose to a Frenchman, and he's like, yo, you did. And then we became friends afterwards. We started playing Halo together, and it was just like a little thing, just because he's like, I'm not gonna lose to a Frenchman. Like it's stupid. It's had more fun with like the banter itself, but I do think that like Blizzard is quicker to punish people than a lot of other players. But also like the kids coming into the trash talk now. Like people coming into this stuff, like they don't know the lead up anymore. Like it's literally just like, remember that Swedish hospital? If you don't, you should go look it up. And it's abbreviation. It's a bannable abbreviation in case like you need to know, right? Like it's like an uninstall abbreviation. And so there's like little memes like that and stuff like that. But like the trash talk at League is like, when it's good, it's like real choice. Okay. And like there was one guy, I watched the video, a guy literally posted coordinates into chat. Just coordinates. You put coordinates into Google, it brings you to Gank Mid, right? It just says Gank Mid is the place. And Gank Mid is like, we just want you to gank the mid laner. So he's like, yo, jungler. And he put the coordinates in, and you just search it, and it's Gank Mid. It's like, I got you. Like, you can have stupid stuff, and like one of the things that I troll with is like it's like if you're losing a game and the game sucks and it's frustrated and you're losing for like really stupid reasons, and it's essentially like you're not even playing the game at all, which happens in any competitive game, right? Just BGWP this game. Just BGWP. Don't have any stock in the fucking game right there. Like, you know why it was bad. You know what was going on. Just BG, well played. And even the other guy can be like, yeah, bad game, well played. Like, it doesn't feel good to dominate like that. So like, to a couple of your points with it, I do have a question at the end of this, but like, it almost feels like comedy, right? When like, there's an art to banter. It's an art to trash talk and shit talk. There's an art to jokes. You can tell a joke like poopy pee pee haha. It's very immature. It's not funny. But if you get clever with it, if you come at it from a different angle and you kind of like, you twist them, you kind of get them, catch them slipping, then that's when it gets fun and it's good. And that cleverness really helps that. And that's something that needs to like develop overall, and like not everybody's got. So of course, don't try. But generally from here, like this is where my question comes in, is like overall, I'm kind of on the fence, and I kind of don't think that we should see this in ranked play, like this kind of banter. People are going to do it, and I think what you're going to see more or less, and like what you're saying, in the meme lords, the people who just want to like, I copy pasted this thing, look, copy pasta, la la la, I'm so funny. Like, it's not original. It's not actually people doing it. So like the average Joe Schmo shouldn't make memes because they're not funny. The average Joe Schmo isn't a comedian, isn't going to be able to improv some banter, some trash talk. So like, that's where I kind of get skeptical, and I want your opinion as far as how far does this go in like a rank play, or should it be in a rank play? Because I enjoy this and seeing this on the broadcast. I want more of it, maybe more on social media, maybe more on like the broadcast between players, not the coaches where it's like dads fighting your friend's dad kind of moment. But but when we bring it back into rank play, into competitive in the game, it doesn't feel like every Tom, Dick, and Larry should do this, because they're not going to be funny, they're not going to be clever, and they're probably just going to resort to racism or some shit. I mean, I don't think everybody's going to resort to racism. That's not like
case in point, Xbox Live. Most of the time, that just resorts into.
I mean, like, that's not like, it's a little bit different. Like the old internet was the Wild West, where everybody didn't have a face and could say whatever they wanted, and the response was, well, you know, how do you know I'm not? You know?
Yeah.
And that's why people like, there's those idiots and stuff like that. But like, it's all bad to say that shit. But I think like really what you're getting to is the malice and the anger behind words is always an issue. And that's not what trash talk is. Trash talk isn't malicious. Like that's like the only way that I could actually like describe it. Like trash talk isn't malicious.
Yeah.
I'm gonna beat the shit out of your team next week, and I'm gonna do it because your supports are trash. These are pro players.
Right.
You should be able to call a pro player trash, and it should not be able to hurt his ego. You should be able to like, and I mean in game, I would say like saying stuff like that in game would probably be a little bit more risky, but even then, I don't think you should. I don't think you should be. I don't think people should be quick to report all the time, and I do think that like Blizzard's automatic system is probably a little bit too heavy-handed when it comes to this stuff. So like, without certain words, I think you need to give people like leeway. Like I think we all know which like words we're talking about, and like. We all know that like it doesn't matter. It matters that we get rid of these racist words and these racist terms, but it doesn't stop a racist from finding a new way to be racist. So we're just adding those words like that onto the thing.
But like that's the evolution. That's the evolution of language in general, right? Like the term like special needs replaced another word, and now it's becoming a little bit illicit as well. So like that's going to be the evolution of context and language and just the etymology overall. But generally speaking, like I don't feel like every Tom, Dick, and Larry should be able to do this or be able to do it like full carte blanche. They shouldn't have free reign to just, and like if I sit here. Okay, like if you remember the movie Happy Gilmore, there's a guy who gets paid to just harass him, and he's like, "Hey, you suck," right? There's nothing clever about it. It's just repeated, and like, there's gonna be a point in context. There's gonna be a point in context if he's doing that outside your home, not during a match. That's a problem. That's harassment, right? Like that's why I'm trying to say like there are situations where you cross a line and it's not necessarily, but like. In context, in the right context. And that's the thing that I think this community needs to learn. But I think esports in general has been learning, and some more than others.
So I think people like from what you just said, you might like. I think you might just be thinking about it like the wrong way, right? Like, take board games for instance. You're gonna have banter with your friends, right? You have to understand that while these people aren't your friends, you have to be friendly with them. Just like you would talk shit with your friend, Damn, yeah. Sarah, you got big feet. Like, who cares? I joke with Sarah. Like, I literally, it doesn't really matter. But like, my sister gets called Disney feet because she got big Disney feet. Like, that's it. Like, and it doesn't matter. But but like, I think really again, it's the anger and the malice that's behind it is really the only issue here. They're like trash talk is fine, but I also want to say, as a person who's managed many people, I don't want to punish people who haven't been socially who haven't been properly socialized, right? And I think that that's like a little bit of like what you're saying almost is like there are people who can't tell jokes. Some people are not properly socialized. I call it like dog is stupid because I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree on the terminology, but I understand the sentiment. But generally speaking, too, like my yum is different than your yum. So if I like peanut butter and you hate it, I might like to be quiet and I don't want to be bothered by it. And like you might like to be loud and boisterous with that stuff. And like in the same setting, if we're our team, like not pushing one to meet the others. Sort of needs or the standard, and that's kind of more of where I'm coming at. But I understand what you're talking about. I don't know if I'd agree to the terminology of like socialized because different strokes for different folks.
Sure. I just like I've managed a bunch of people who weren't properly socialized when they were like younger. So what they do when they're older is like really innocent, but to other people it doesn't feel innocent because they don't realize that person wasn't really properly socialized. Like I've seen it time and time again where I've literally had to be like, yo, he just doesn't understand. like she doesn't understand. Something along those lines, right?
I like to look at it like the Wile E. Coyote moment. He's running after the Roadrunner, and Roadrunner just goes off a cliff and just keeps going. Wile E. Coyote keeps going, then realizes there's nothing underneath him, looks down, and when he looks down, he falls. And like that's kind of like a metaphor for that. realization, that moment of like, oh wait, no, like I don't have ground underneath me. But philosophy aside, I do feel like Planters has a place in esports, in Overwatch. I want to see more of it in Overwatch. I want to see it less sterile than this, but I do feel like it's a situation where the community, players, and just generally, people need to be less soft-skinned about it. It needs to be done a little bit more clever. It needs to be more tactile. It can't just be, you're stupid. You're stupid. Oh my God, you're so stupid. Right?
Well, I agree and disagree with you.
Even without malice and intent.
Like if somebody was just like, you suck in the chat, that's hilarious. Like even if that's the only like trash talk that they have, if they're just like typing out in all chat, you suck. Yeah, you. And then like they're not even targeting anybody or anything like that. But I think a real good point for a lot of people, and I think this is specifically for the Blizzard community, because at one point the Blizzard community did not wrangle in these players in any of their games. Okay? And I'll like Baron's chat, for instance, old World of Warcraft, trade chat, right? They are very heavy-handed now because of what they started off with. Okay? And I think that that's a symptom of like what's going on right now. Because of that. Right. But I think like one sentence for everybody is like, it's okay for you to be uncomfortable. Like not always, but 95% of the time, it's okay for you to be uncomfortable. That joke didn't hit you the right way. Made you a little uncomfortable. Is it really bad? Probably not. Like if
to
it just
push back on you, a little bit, that does not give other people carte blanche, though. So in that same way, the balance between the two, it's okay to be. It's okay to be uncomfortable, but that you're not like, it doesn't mean somebody's allowed to just say whatever they want. Oh, it was just with the correctness kind of bullshit, like the PC, like, oh, I can't say anything anymore. That doesn't mean you just get to say whatever you want either. You can say it, but there's going to be consequences, because there's always been consequences for being an asshole.
I think again. Like, especially when we're talking about Overwatch, I don't even think that needs to be stated, because you will get fucking banned. You're gone. Like Blizzard's automated thing will usually pick you up, or it'll convert your thing into my mom made cookies. Like the worst offenders are probably verbal offenders most of the time when it comes to like a lot of these like emotional words. And I say emotional words because like they're reacting in the moment with emotion. That's how you get like a lot of really bad curse words come out from emotion, right? And so they're just like too emotional inside the game, and it comes out through voice chat. It's like not one of them is going to type the N-word. They're going to type it on Discord, but they ain't typing that shit in the battle.net. Like,
yeah, that's an interesting.
No shot. Like you'll go off and type it in Discord, like N-word, and like you're a bad guy, but like you don't have the balls to even like. I doubt they'll say it or anything like that. So I think like. I hear where you're coming from. I just think that like that bar's already set. Like a lot of Overwatch players know exactly like what's gonna get them banned and what they shouldn't be doing it. And it's a very broad community with I want to say like I don't want to say like niche, but it's very minute amount of players in the game that are actually like toxic problems like that. But
yeah,
you know.
It's a lot. It's a big conversation. A big conversation we'd like to continue to have here. One of our big mantras too. If you're typing, you're not playing, and you're probably losing the game because of it. But you know, we'll keep talking about it. We'll keep on this subject matter because there is an aspect of it, like we are alluding to, but like there is a nuance, and I think that's the biggest thing of like learning and relearning nuance, and it is sort of significant of the time of experience, the last 10 years overall, but the internet, it's still pretty new, and we gotta wrap our heads around it. But I think it's time we move into other subject matter. We're gonna stay in Overwatch though. We're gonna move into the NA region. Not the NA region. I'm sorry. We're going to move into just the setup for DreamHack. We've already talked about NA. We've already talked about EMEA, the results. But now let's go into what that means, where we're going to be seeing these guys. So DreamHack Dallas happening June 14th. We're going to be seeing prizes announced soon. Haven't been totally announced, but assuming it's going to be pretty big because it's the first international major from OWCS. The players in the game here, the teams in the competition, we've got Toronto Defiant, M80. Let me adjust it so we can see it on the stream. There we go. All right, Toronto Defiant, M80. Students of the game made it in, which we're saying a little bit unsure, unqualified. Kind of not seeing surprised they made it that far, but like not so much. I'm sorry.
That's a little mean. We were not saying that they're unqualified. We were saying that due to the bracket that they got put into, it did not matter how good they were, unless they were better than Toronto Defiant, because they were on that bracket side. It's just not nice. Like.
It doesn't get any easier for them here. They might be considered one of the weaker teams in this tournament, but they're in it, which hopefully means some guaranteed prize money. We'll see when they announce that. But we got students of the game making it, which might be a little bit more of a surprise. And I think those were the words I was looking for. You might not have been totally expecting to see them, but they've been performing well enough to get here. Space Station Gaming, who just won stage 2. Ents, who got second place. But then we also have Twisted Minds, which I believe Twisted Minds won stage 1 in Europe. But they have some drama because I believe some of their players got a bit boomed and have quit very suddenly. So they have about a month to get these new players into the system, into rotation, and well practiced, basically. And then the last two teams we have competing in the tournaments, the two from the Asia region, Crazy Raccoon and Team Falcons. Crazy Raccoon, I believe, was WAC, and these are just South Korean Overwatch veterans. Had their finest: Lip, Hiseng, Junbing, Max, Charong, and Shu. All names known throughout OWL. And then Team Falcons, also a star-studded with Proper, Stalker, Smurf, Hanbin, Chio, Fielder. Surmajet is the only one who's not from South Korea. He's a current import as a support there, but still notable. And like overall, this competition seems to be heavy, and the big question is which region is really the strongest. Nick, any thoughts about the teams here competing, what you're looking at, what you're hoping for to see very quickly, and then maybe a thought or two about the strength between the diversity of regions and their style of play?
So I don't know much about the style of play for Asia for the most part, for Overwatch. But if I were to put money on it, they're probably more aggressive up front and less laid back compared to a lot of teams. And their team comps are probably a little bit stranger than North American team comps, just because that's usually kind of the way that it happens. I am impressed that Crazy Raccoons is a name, because it's like the most Little League, like North American Little League team name that there is. It's like the Crazy Raccoons hit another home run. Like it's very baseball-y. But like, because I don't know a lot of these teams besides the ones that were in the tournament, like the top 4 right there that we were already like talking about, I would assume that based on what you said, that like we'd probably watch out for like Crazy Raccoons and the other team. But again, it does like probably no standouts, and probably it's going to be like a Toronto Defiant kind of year. Like instead of it being, some comp, it's just going to be Toronto Defiant's year to just constantly win.
So a lot of the conversation here is that, Toronto has looked strong through NA, and it's really just it's Toronto's tournament and who's going to come into second a lot of the time here. M80 has stepped up and really like put themselves together as a clear second, even over some of the other teams that have come and gone. But like just for now, the first 2 stages, Students of the Game making it on circuit points is pretty big. And then EMEA, we have a much different style of play with Space Station and Ents, but like these are veterans, like clear Overwatch League pros. So like it makes sense that these guys got in. A little bit of a shakeup, but like Twisted Minds here at the bottom, it's going to be one that like probably looking to be one of the weakest. It might come as not come as a surprise, but they might be able to shock or upset people. And like the big thing, like you're talking about with the Asia region, is we have two teams that are predominantly South Korea, two teams that have predominantly won major tournaments in Overwatch League, if not the championship. We've got role stars on these teams. Hanbin Smurf proper won Rookie of the Year and MVP the year he's in. Like arguably the best Overwatch player ever. He has an ego to go with it, but their style is more dive, like you said, more aggressive, and like the read on the meta might be where this tournament becomes super exciting. Because you'll have the two teams from the Asian stage come in, and they're gonna go up against. Well, let's see who they're playing in the first round, because we do have the upper bracket first and foremost. Crazy Raccoon is gonna be going up against M80, and Team Falcons is gonna be going up against ENCE off the first round.
You literally just said this. Look at poor twisted minds. Those poor bastards.
Yeah. Those poor bastards.
That's me.
Fortunately, it's a double elimination tournament, but they're not looking good even before seeing the seeding and the placement, because they got boomed on the roster. They had 3 people retire or something happen on the back end of the organization where they have people leaving pretty suddenly. So is what it is. And like, let's see if they can bounce back and maybe upset. Probably not, or make a lower bracket run here and plan on that.
I think these brackets are terrible, to be honest. So basically based off what you literally said, like M80 should be in the other spot in the other bracket, the top part of the bracket. Scroll up.
Sorry.
Yeah, so like literally M80 should literally be in Students of the Game spot. Or ENCE spot or something along those lines, right? Because like
I don't know if this was ranked seeding. I think it might have just been random seeding because it's international. They don't have any comparative against each other.
It's international. Give me the best games for viewership.
Well, you're gonna get that for sure. Let me take a look here, see if we can find out how it was decided. But like, generally speaking, right? Like, I think the most exciting part about this is going to be the style difference, the style clashing, where you can have an EU sort of rush style go against an American versatility style, or a dive heavy Winston style. Because like EU will play Ram Rush a lot. We'll lean into Rhine Rush sometimes. North America will be Ram, Orisa. And then maybe some dive, but then you have like a Asia region doing a lot of Winston Doomfist, which is kind of surprising, and then maybe some Diva and Orisa at the end here, and that's just the tank matchup, not even going into like the DPS matchups, but like that styling might be it. Yeah, I can't really find anything currently about the how they seeded this, and it might be random, but you are talking about the top 8 teams from all 3 regions. So it might not be as lopsided as you kind of expect it to be. I think we might be a little biased seeing the Toronto Defiant versus Twisted Minds in the first round here.
Not even just that. Like we already just watched like M80 versus Toronto Defiant. Like literally, they've had 3 full game matches in the past month. Right? We've seen them face each other 3 different times already. I don't want to, like, even if M80 won, I don't want to see Toronto Defiant versus M80 again. Like, I think that's how the bracket's stupid. Because, like, they're literally going to be touching each other again already. And then, Space Station and Students of the Game should probably be separated, right?
No. They
Space Station and ENCE faced each other, too.
Yeah,
like,
you're right. I not one.
Like, it looks like they purposely did this. We'll just have... Except for the Asia teams. The Asia teams don't have to play if they did face each other to get there. I'm not really sure.
But that's the point of like randomness, right? If it is a random seeding for this international tournament, it's got to be random, and random will be random. So like, if it is place seeding, and I want to take a look at that and like go into more about that. But if it is place seeding, then that might make a more evident case, point to your case. Basically, either way, it's a double elimination. So we both know the exciting games happen on the lower bracket where it means more, where there's more at stake. So seeing M80 go to the lower bracket earlier might be more exciting. Seeing Raccoon go into there, seeing Ents or Space Station hit that because they had a bad game.
What's your bracket? What's your April Madness for Overwatch? Like, what do you got?
Well, quick prediction here. I think I have a lot of Scrimbucks in Crazy Raccoon. I think they're going to be able to come out over Toronto Defiant in the second round, and I think that's going to make the lower bracket pretty exciting from the second round on. I want to save my full predictions for a little bit later. I want to do a whole segment at a later episode where we can see the prize pool. We can know a little bit more about the meta changing, because in fact, Venture's coming out in this new world. We'll be playing Venture here in this tournament, and by the looks of how these players are streaming, they're practicing her style and her play as a DPS hero. So we might see a dive rush sort of combo hybrid or full-fledged on in with her play coming up. And I want to reserve my full predictions for then, but out of the gate, I think Crazy Raccoon takes it. I think they knock out Toronto Defiant in the second round, and then I think it's anyone's game in the lower bracket to come back and play Crazy Raccoons in the finals. How about you? What do you got?
No, that's just funny. Like, I can go through a full one, but if you want to save it, we could save it. But that's just interesting that you say that. If based on if Toronto Defiant loses in the upper bracket semifinals and then goes into lower bracket, that seems pretty. If that's the case, like, I don't know how good Team Falcons is, right? But if, let's say, they came second to Crazy Raccoons, or are they first in their own little region, right? But let's say they came second place to Crazy Raccoons. You're telling me Crazy Raccoons can beat Toronto Defiant? Upper bracket finals would then just probably be like Team Falcon and versus Crazy Raccoon. And if that happened, that would mean that the only people who could possibly stop Toronto Defiant in the lower bracket would be M80.
This might be set up.
Like I just called it. Yeah,
this might be set up. This might be set up for maximum Overwatch, like you wanted.
Sure, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe this is just the WWE version of Overwatch right here. Everything's scripted.
Well, we do know that the script is in the books already, so we'll see what gets played out. I feel like Space Station and Ents had a better counter, better answer to Team Falcons and Dive. So I feel like that's going to be a closer matchup over there. But we'll get into the full predictions later on when we get a little bit more of a deep dive. Let us get ready and move into our final topic of today. It's going to be the Magic the Gathering Pro Tour Thunder Junction Pro Tour Thunder Junction. Let me say that again. We're going into Magic the Gathering here. There's a standard competition, a big tournament, a pro tournament that happened this past weekend, the Pro Tour Thunder Junction. I think I said that right that time. All right, Nick, can you run us through a little bit of the background here and what we're expecting? I've got our first slide up. Cowboys.
Outlaws.
Yeehaw.
Mounts. Okay.
Mounts.
Yeah, there's new, it's a new type of mechanic in the game. It's like a modified version of another thing. Basically, mounting something, and then you get triggered effects. Basically. So basically, these pro tours, right? These lead into the world championships. Like if you win a pro tour, if you go 12-4 or at least top 8. You're going to go into the world championships for it. So these are always a great way for people to just, make it. Get a sleeve up and then just head out and try to see how well you can do with it.
Very cool. Earning circuit points, I believe, right? For the wins?
Yeah. So you can get circuit points and everything like that. And then that way, the number of points that you get, if you get enough points, but your record isn't good enough, you'd still be able to make it to the world championship if you're high enough on points. But it's not that part really like too much really doesn't like matter. Like there's not many pro tours for the year, but that is the best and more concrete way of making it into Worlds, because Worlds I believe is only like 18 players or something like that. It's a very small tournament, but it is Worlds for Magic the Gathering. So the easiest way literally would be to make top 8 in one of these tournaments.
Fair. Okay. Well, one of these tournaments happened this past weekend, and we have a little bit of the meta game breakdown for this. I'm going to scroll this down. So the broadcast schedule, it was a 3-day event, pretty straightforward. They got to top 8 by day 3 after some Swiss standard competition. We had players from all over the world come to compete here, and here's what they played. Nick, if you can walk us through a little bit more of the terminology, I fear that my magic spell casting is not that great.
So basically, like Esper, Boros, these are types of colors. So these are just color combinations that the Magic community has adopted because they've prominent characters in the lore will basically lead you to do this, right? So like Rakdos, literally there's a guy called Rakdos. He's black and red. So it's a black-red deck. Mono red is mono red. Golgari is black-green. Dimir is blue, black. And that's because there's Dimir cards that were blue-black, and eventually it just became his thing. Azorius is blue-white, because I'm pretty bad at these names too. Domain Ramp. Domain Ramp is domain means all 5 colors for the most part. Usually domain will mean like all 5 colors, because domain's a mechanic that matters how many basic land types you have. And there's only 5 basic land types, so usually domain ramp means, one of each type. 4-color legends, pretty self-explanatory. It has legends, and it's 4 colors.
The most creative name out of the entire bunch.
Yeah, so Tamir is red, green, and blue, I believe. Red, green, blue. Boros is red and white. And then Esper is blue, black, and white. Okay. And so basically the mid-range Esper deck is pretty good and best of ones, and then it also has like a decent has a really good sideboard plan for the most part. Boros Convoke is extremely good in the best of ones for the most part, and that one has I don't want to say terrible plan B with like the sideboard, but the games don't generally get easier after you sideboard. You just have answers to things.
It's like an all-inclusive deck. You kind of just run it. You don't really like sub stuff in.
Azorius Control. I'll go down to Azorius Control. That's the one I was telling you about before. No creatures whatsoever in the deck.
Really?
Yeah,
so it's all spells?
All spells, 1 planeswalker, and basically it just keeps the board clear. It's just it's a big control deck. A lot of these decks in here are, for the most part, control decks. Like besides the aggro decks, mid-range is usually a little bit like, I hate these names that they use because half these decks here they all interact with their opponents in some way. Okay. Dimir Control, Golgari mid-range, Esper mid-range, Azorius Control, they all just interact with your opponent rather than like the mono red aggro deck, which doesn't for the most part.
All right. That seems interesting, but of these decks, we're seeing a high deck count, 65 decks for the Esper mid-range, the black and red. 31% of players played this deck. And then we got 10% of playing Boros Convoke. Overall, how much of a percentage of the field of the players played control decks is what you're saying. That's the question I'm asking, really. How much?
Most of these decks are semi-control. So like mid-range it's just a form of control deck.
It's like a control hybrid. Gotcha.
Yeah. So they usually mid-ranges are usually a little bit more tempo based. So they're just gonna slow your opponent down a little bit so that you can just gain over it. Let me just double check. Yeah, so like 4 color control, Teamer is going to be another control deck. Dimir is a control deck, as it says right there. But also, like the mid-range one is pretty. It's pretty controlly, just like overall. Gotcha. If you were to look at the actual deck list most of the time.
Right. So more or less, it seems that like really a small percentage, maybe about 16 decks totally that were played totally were aggro. Everything else was like a control and a control hybrid.
Yeah, right now there's a lot of board wipe, like a lot of stuff that just really clears the field of like creatures.
Okay.
Which is why the Azorius control was able to like actually like perform for the most part and made it into top 8. I believe the second place person was playing Azorius. Yeah, Yuta was playing Azorius control. Okay. Boros Convoke made it into the top 8. The deck that won was the Domain Ramp, which I didn't go over. Domain Ramp, as I said, it's like the 5 colors. But this one has like what I would consider now like a legacy staple card. Yeah, like that's like the funny part about it is like 1, 2, 3, 3 big parts of their deck are essentially like legacy staples at this point. With like Leyline Binding is essentially a 6 mana spell that gets cast for 1 mana because it has domain. So if you have 5 lands out, 5 land types, it costs 1. So, and it removes something from the game. And then there's another card in the deck called Up the Beanstalk, whereas if you cast something that costs more than 4 mana, you get the draw card. And gotcha. Even if you reduce the cost of it and you're paying 1 for it, you actually get to pay 1, remove something from the game, draw a card.
Yeah, still a big advantage.
Yeah, it's huge. Like domain's pretty crazy just overall. But a lot of these decks are using like Sunfall and Depopulate. Like I don't know what like the percentage of those cards is, but the top decks usually like have it. Like Boros Control isn't going to have it because they're a creature focused deck. Let me see. So let me see.
Right now, I'm looking at like the main staples of like a couple of the decks, and here's a 4-color legend. You said that 4-color legend is the one that won, correct? 4-color domain.
Domain is the one that won.
Oh, domain.
Okay. Did not. Like, and it doesn't do like too bad. Like some of these decks are like interesting decks overall. But it just like in older formats, like it's really hard right now to really keep creatures kind of like on the board with how many board wipes exist in Magic at the moment. Like,
right. Going back to the top, that makes it kind of interesting that you're seeing a low aggro deck percentage, but then you're having a very high Esper mid-range. Is this the Grief deck that you were talking about a couple weeks ago?
No. That's in Legacy. Yeah,
that's in Legacy. Okay.
Standard doesn't have the.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
Cards, but like again, like Domain Ramp, Azorius Control, Esper mid-range. I believe Esper mid. Let me just double check Esper mid-range because I don't play that deck. Right. But Esper mid-range spell. Go for the throat. They do not have like board wipes, but they could have board wipes on the sideboard if they wanted to. They're a little bit more like spot control, like that sort of thing. They're called mid-range. Is like a little bit more tempo-y. So it's just going to be a little bit more like disruption, like one-ofs.
More aggressive rather than defensive, reactionary. Gotcha.
Yeah, a single target. They're worried about singular creatures because they're creature focused. And then they have more hand interaction just in general. So they have like a creature that can remove like a card from your opponent's hand until it leaves the field. And then it has like, destroy creature. It has like 7 destroy creatures and then 3 big counter spells. And basically it's just, it's trying to keep things on the board while removing their threats they usually lose to board wipes, which is why they have that counter spell. And then, that's what they're saving that counter for the most part.
So in that way, those decks rely heavily on like precision gameplay, like knowing the other deck and countering the right thing at the right time with a little bit of luck of getting the right thing at the right time. Or what do you think?
So usually when it happens, you have these counters in your deck, you're gonna know if you're a creature based deck and you have this counter spell in there, just like the Esper mid-range does, the most played one. They're saving that counter spell specifically for the board wipes. Is really like what it is. But some of these board wipes, they're running like 7 board wipes. So really you have to beat them before you run out of counter spells for the most part. But that's the thing that will like ruin your game. So like a lot of the times when you face like one of decks, or like, you face this deck will face that deck and it goes through the whole entire thing. There's something on that person's sideboard or something in their main deck that is specifically just going to shut your game plan down.
Yeah. They're able to sub out.
A lot of the time in the creature ones, it's going to be like the board wipes. The Esper mid-range gets around it a little bit because it has something that will put in creature tokens. But that's not forever. Right? Yeah. So is it like really what it comes down to? But they have abilities to do some stuff, and that's really like where they're going to go for. They're going to use that to make sure that the counter spell is there to destroy, just to counter those board wipes. And then on like their sideboard, they have sideboard plan for like more aggressive aggro decks, because those are the only two things that they're really like worried about would be like the Boros Convoke, or like mono red, something along those lines, something that's like faster than them, where they have to like have all these like destroy creature spells and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Okay. Let me bring up. I was going to bring us into. I just closed the tab by accident, but let me bring us into the bracket so we can take a look at how the tournament went. We ultimately see that Yoshihiko Ikawa took first place with the domain ramp deck, but walking it back, he had a pretty strong run. A little bit of a hard time in the first round of this top 8 bracket against Timur Analyst, if I can say it correct. Timur Analyst. There we go. I'm casting magic. Timur Analyst. Okay.
Yeah.
Then we can see in the other bracket on this side, Esper midrange ended up getting a little bit of an unlucky draw or unlucky pick or seeding, where they're playing a mirror match and came out the side of Arne Hushenbeth. I apologize if I was saying that incorrectly, and they actually watched this, but congratulations on, I believe, third or fourth place here. And we can kind of see that it was pretty diverse in the decks when you got to top 8, except for this Esper mid-range going up in that mirror match. Like, you had 2 4-color legends both getting knocked out in the first part of the top 8 here. But then pretty much everything else, not random, but like, right? Like pretty like diverse. You don't really get to see that like too often, where there's not everybody's mostly playing one deck.
So like in sometimes, well, most of the time in Magic tournaments, it'll happen this way, because a lot of the times they're like certain decks of these, like the Azorius Control, right, is there to specifically prey on certain types of decks, right? And like, while on like smaller scales, right, like the certain decks, so like the Esper mid-range will probably do better on like MTGA, right? Where like it's just like the online meta versus like the in-paper meta, and then how many people you have as well really changes a lot of things with a lot of these like metas just in general. But like, Boros Control it's really hard matchup for them. Like, it doesn't matter how many creatures you have by turn 4 if you're not killing them, and then they say all the creatures are dead, get rid of everything. Like it sucks. So like you need really, really fast hands with Boros Convoke, and then like how do you beat it because you're red white? And then the sideboard plan is don't get board wiped, and you say, excuse me, I only have creatures. Like this like I'm just a creature deck. So it's really Azorius Control is there to prey on more creature based decks, which it successfully did. It's not a lot of people are really not happy about the deck because it's not very fun to like play with. And it probably like a lot of these control decks, like when they play these control decks and they go into like tournaments, personal experience, I hate a lot of control players. They don't play their decks enough. They don't know exactly what the hell they're supposed to be doing. And there's some control players that like sometimes you need a little bit of time in order to like think. I hate draws. I hate people impacting the like overall like score of other players. Like you can't get 12-4 to get your pro points to make it to Worlds because some asshole took 80 minutes to play a round. So now no one actually won that match. It's just a tie, and they're just drawing it out. And it's like, that's great. So now the points are completely messed up in the tournament, and it's because draws happen. Like I get real, and it only happens with control players. And then when
in
control
that way,
is control,
in that way,
40 minutes in between rounds. 40 minutes, man. It's supposed like that's 90 minutes for a round. Okay, like that's a lot, dude. Like,
well, in that way, does that warrant a rule change? Not on the decks and that they can play the decks, but then how the points are assigned or like in the draw.
So they like people have like talked about it, but like a lot of the time it's like people are going to want to play control decks, and it would probably like if you really did too much like switching with it, it might impact how often like control decks are played, and then certain decks.
Yeah.
And it's a very like it's a I don't want to say well balanced ecosystem because Blizzard is the hedge trucks will limit their cash, but they don't properly balance a lot of stuff, but it kind of just does take care of itself a little bit, like where the metagame shifts and everything like that. But I understand that we want to have control decks and stuff like that. I just don't think that I don't think in large scale tournaments where people's ability to go to like Worlds and stuff like that should be impacted by people's inability to play fast enough, because like you can get called for like slow play and stuff like that. But it's like control decks are very frustrating to play against when the person has not had the proper experience. And that's the same thing for like control decks though. You know, like not control decks, combo decks. Like when your opponent can just take too long to like do some stuff because he's not prepared to be there is like really what it comes down to. And there's a lot of control players that they'll go to the tournament and they'll say, all right, I'm just going to play the control deck because it's good. And I know that it's good because I saw somebody play with it and I have it built already. And I've just been losing with the deck that I normally play. So they just switch it up and then they play something like that.
It's interesting then that you're talking about like how practiced somebody, how rehearsed somebody is with the thing, but like I wonder too how much of a value it is in the strategy, because like 2 points with that is like looking at like traditional sports. Sometimes in soccer and football, it's more valuable to take the penalty. So rather than play the game, you're going to play the game by dropping on the ground, basically. And then the second thing is I would also see in the NHL and hockey, the way that points were distributed for wins and losses and then overtime, basically like just sort of it elicited a certain style and choice of strategy that wasn't exciting and wasn't good for competition. So like
We need to talk about Sandra Dorley, the district attorney for Monroe County, New York. Because there's this absolutely wild
Hold on a second.
video of her that's gone viral. And in it, body cam footage shows police pulling up to Dorley's.
Autoplay. Love it.
Sick.
All right. So walking that back a second so I can edit that part out. We also see in the NHL where there's a big strategy with overtimes, and basically if the game goes to overtime, each team gets 1 point, and then normally if you win, you get 3 points, and you lose, you get 0 points. If you go to overtime, you get 1 point, And then if you win in overtime, you get 2 points, I think it is. So like there's basically a point scaling in that way, and they've changed those arbitrary specifics to make it less valuable. But previously there was a incentive and a strategy where you would want to just stall it out like that. And that's kind of what I'm asking here. Is there something in that way the Wizard can do to like change the format of the competition, the point system, where it makes stalling it out less valuable? Because granted, those people might not know, but I doubt these top 8 people don't know. I'm sure if they're doing it with purpose, with like strategy in mind.
It's better to not lose than to lose. Okay. So even if you're not going to win the game, you're not as long as you don't slow play and it does go past time, you're not negatively impacted by it, right? A little context is there is already a rule for people who slow play in order to try to like get the clock and run the clock like that. Usually it's not really. Usually a judge isn't really called for this, except against like certain players. Known
offenders.
Not even known offenders. Just how do I put this? I don't want to be
egregious actions, like they're obviously or what?
It's like, all right. So there's a deck called Doomsday in Legacy, right? It is probably one of the hardest decks in Legacy to play overall. And without going into like details, essentially for whatever situation you're in, right? At that moment, the way the deck wins is it basically reduces the amount of cards in its deck and then puts 1 card on the field, right? But the way that they do it is through a card called Doomsday. Doomsday is 3 mana. You take your graveyard and your deck, and you take 5 cards out of them. And then that's your deck. And everything else gets removed from the game. God. So it is the hardest because you literally have to sit there and you have to run through so many different scenarios. And a lot of these players are experienced and they're not egregious with it. But like a lot of players don't like playing against Doomsday. So they'll usually call slow play on Doomsday players. Like, I'm not even joking. Like if they take 10 seconds more than what the opponent thinks they should be taking in order to like make their Doomsday pile, which is what they call it, their 5 cards, they will get called. A judge will get called. And then they'll like either get like a game loss or they'll get a warning, depending on like the timing of it and everything like that. But again, like the real big problem with the draws just ends up being like the control players just not taking losses because they can't win the game. They know they can't win the game.
So they're not losing.
They're just not losing. And that is an acceptable way to play the game. I don't want people to do it. But it's not good gameplay in a big tournament.
That's where it's more valuable too. So like can you run me quickly through the points in a format like this or a system like this? Like if you win, do you get 3 points?
It's
a percentage based on like.
So usually when you go to a big tournament, you get like 6 points. 3 points for win. Right?
Okay. And then how many do you get 0 for a loss, or you get like anything for a draw?
0 for a loss.
Okay. Is it no negative?
Yeah.
How does it?
Go ahead.
How does it math then? Because then they have to figure like. So like there's going to be a lot of people that end up going 12-4. There's no tiebreaker games.
No, there's not a lot of people going 12-4. That's why they put 12-4.
Oh, I apologize. You're right. There's going to be a lot of people with the same record is what I mean. Like, or you need to hit 12-4 to just get it, and they mathematically pick 12-4 to be the entry point.
So usually, depending on how many players there are at like these pro tours, like 500 players or more could lead you into nine to more rounds. But when they say 12-4 in these pro tours, it means that they're going to have 16 rounds, which is why it's on 2 days. 8 rounds one day, 8 rounds the second day. So that's where they're gonna go for that. Let me see, winning percentage calculator. Not number of games. Where is it?
I mean, this might be the most Magic thing if it's not like like it's a very math based thing. If it's not just like a simple, easy calculation, get a win, get 3 points.
Exactly. So get a win, get 3 points. Get a loss, get 0 points. Right. Get a tie, get 1 to 2 points, depending. Is the way that I see it half the time.
1 to 2 points is wild. Why isn't that not like a set number, or is it different between tournaments?
So it matters about so here's the other part. It's about your breakers and like who you played against in the tournament and who your opponents played against in the tournament, which will determine where you are out of like 1,000 players. With like so if you lose to the person who won the tournament in like the first round,
it's worth more.
Right? Like you are worth more like as a player at that point. So if you keep winning and you only lost to like that one person, you'll have a better breaker and yeah, man. Yeah, dude.
That's so dumb. That's so dumb.
Right? Okay,
it's so convoluted on purpose, and it's try to like ego basically inflate on that. And like I can understand that for like a Swiss qualifier portion of it, like maybe day 1 you have to like that's involved. Okay, sure, but then day 2, day 3 absolutely should not involve that.
Yeah. So like let's say in this one, right? If they had 1,000 players and 16 rounds, right? Which I don't know that they have 1,000 players. For this, and I'm so bright because I have a white screen on right now. Let me step back. There will be 5.9 players at 13.3, and this again, because of the way these calculators work, it does not include ties, dropped, double game losses. Like there's so much more. This is the worst part. Like Magic is an English college level course. Just in general, Magic tournaments are the SA fucking T's. Okay, like it's fucking terrible, dude. Like it's so fucking terrible. Like we're sitting because you'll be sitting there in a tournament, dude, and it's like you win the first round, you win the second round, you're like, sick, dude, I'm fucking doing well, right? And then you lose 2 rounds, and you're like, how many losses until I drop?
And like you're sitting there for
right?
You're sitting there for 16 hours taking this test, basically.
Yeah, if you're gonna stay like both days, right? So like a lot of legacy tournaments will be like 2-day events. It'll be 1 day for the tournament because they don't, and then they'll do top 8 the next day. Pro Tour, they do it over 3 days, so they, it's a little bit easier for like viewers because they do broadcast it.
Yeah.
Legacy does get broadcasted too, but like, you're not going to watch 1,000 players and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So usually like I'm not even joking with you when I say this, like the last big tournament me and Ewok went to, right? I lost 3 rounds right off the jump. I just lost 3. I went 0-3 first 3 rounds. And I was like, yo, 1 more, I'm dropping and I'm going to go just sit there. Right. So I'm like 3 hours deep on like a 10-round tournament, I think it was. And, Ewok's like 1-2 or something like that. And he's like, yeah, all right. If I lose 2 more, I'll drop as well. So we're like, all right, 4 losses is 1 will drop, right? Obviously Ewok starts winning until the end of the day. And now I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'll just stay in, I guess. And so like, I'm just going around. And then that's when I proceed to start winning and everything like that. But like, and I broke even on my record. But
yeah,
it's literally sitting there doing like math problems. And then if your record is like randomly spicy, like I was literally doing SAT math questions for Ewok because of the fact that I was like, all right, but if your breakers end up being from like if the people you beat right here, if they make it to this position and they do this, then and these guys lose, then you'll get matched up, whereas those guys will get matched down. And like it gets really, really brutal. And
That's unfortunate, but it feels like the most Magic thing. Magic players are going to be Magic players. And on that note, let's run down the Magic players that won this tournament real quickly. Check the bag that they got. As we mentioned, Yoshihiko Ikawa took first place, scored 45 circuit points, and a total of $50,000, 50,000 of those dollars. Wonderful to see. And Nick, I believe you were telling me a little bit, he had a pretty cool backstory coming over to this pro tour to try to qualify specifically here.
Yeah, so he's from Japan, just in general. He's from Japan, comes over, and he's played in multiple pro tours. He's played in a ton of different, like, just top high level events, and he really has never like walked away in a pro tour with a championship, just in general. And so now he's got 2 top finishes under his belt, this one being underneath the pro tour, which is just great. And this is the one that he said he was just like, I'm getting better and I'm ready to like win the pro tour finally. So, congrats to him, and like his dreams come true, right? Like the realization is that.
Big congrats. I mean, he's like it says here, he started in 2000 playing Magic, and then went pro in 2010. So it's been a long time coming, a lot of planning, strategy, and finally getting a good read. For him to like come top here, he won $50,000, that's a whole year's salary. This man can now play the game for the rest of the year, respectfully.
So like, they don't get stipends like a lot, like the Pokemon PCG or anything like that.
Okay.
At least from what I've seen, they don't get stipends that I know of. But $50,000 like does go a long way. But he's one of the players who probably goes to he's going to go to a lot of different pro tours just in general.
Right,
like,
and he did travel out. He did travel out from Japan over to the U.S. for this tournament, correct?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure a couple of the players like that ended up in top 8 ended up coming over from Japan. But like as I was saying, a couple of these players probably play in every single pro tour that there is, because like the paper practice is paramount compared to even like playing online. Like online is not as important. Like you'll get like a gist of something, but you won't. It's so weird.
There's a feel difference.
Yeah, it's like a feel difference, but also like you don't have a computer making everything random for you. Because like computer random is random, but so like, and some of these people, if they play on Magic the Gathering online, they can't do best of ones because there's like I think the mana like you don't know about this, but there's like a mana algorithm basically where like they smooth out your hand in best of ones so that the player experience is better, but the decks are like the decks are better than they should be, kind of, because you'll always have like a land in your opening hand most of the time.
Gotcha.
But that's like their algorithm for the most part.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. And I know Magic is a game filled with luck, making sure you read the meta pretty well and then ride that luck and make those plays. So it's good to see it come together like it did for Yoshihiko. Hopefully continue to see it. Congratulations to him. Congratulations to them, as well as the rest of the top 10 here. Winning some prize pool. Continue making that tour. Continue on your journey in this competition. Love to see it.
Yeah, man. Like it's wild. It's such a cool thing when somebody just like tries real hard. Like we're gonna win, and I want to see. Like I'm hoping, because I don't know if I've said this on our channel. I don't know if I've said this before on our podcast or our channel, whatever you want to call it. That the world champion should be getting a card made for himself.
Yes, we went over it in one of our early episodes, one of the past ones, where it's some pretty cool stuff where you literally have a card made in your image, you're put on the card, it's designed in your flavor, the deck that you won with, I believe.
So you get to help design it, is the thing. Yeah, so
that's such a cool like reputation thing, especially in that community.
It's crazy. I mean, like one of the card's nicknames, he's called Dark Confidant. because of the person that helped design it, like the person whose card it is. It's called Bob.
It's called Bob?
Like, yeah, we just call it Bob in the community. The card's name is Dark Confidant, but everybody calls it Bob because the guy's name is Bob. So, like, it's like, you got a Bob out? Yeah, I got Bob out, bro. Like, shit like that.
That's amazing. That's one of those moments you live for. So there's a lot of reputation at stake with that win and that play.
Yeah, it's really super cool. Even to people, like, if it's just a world championship like card comes out, like it's something that like a player helped design, rather than like they created in a cave with a box full of scraps.
I doubt Wizard and Hasbro are working with a box full of scraps these days, but I get your point. Yeah, it's more intuitive and grounded in the player's wants and like what they see their experiences, rather than the machinations of an employee in an office trying to like shake things up or work towards a goal.
Yeah, I mean, and also like Standard is in one of the best spots that it's ever been in. And like my two main things used to be Standard and Legacy, and then like Standard kind of got weird, but now they're starting to bring it back. Now every card you have can last for 3 years in the meta. Like, it doesn't mean that it's going to be like a top card or anything like that, but like your cards don't rotate out once a year anymore, right? Because like every time, like literally, it used to be the feeling of a new set comes out and you lose a set. So there would only be like 9 sets total, and now it's just 3 years. Now it's, this card's good for 3 years. I keep moving off the camera.
That's fair. That's fun. Yeah, a little more sustainability, a little bit more value. You can learn a deck better. A meta can evolve a bit better. But that all sounds good. And of course, we're wrapping up here with the metagame. Any final notes for the topics at hand? This last Standard comments any for that?
Nah. Nope. I got no final comments. We've been going for 3 hours.
We've been talking a whole lot, so let's do a less yapping and more leaving. This has been the Esport Meta. Thank you for joining us. You can see us here every week live on our Twitch. You can also check us out on all the social medias, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Anywhere that you're at, we're also there. So if you enjoyed us, let us know by liking, subscribing. It helps us dive into the algorithm a bit further and make this thing a bit louder. That's it for me. I've been Billy Sims. I've enjoyed this day. This is Nick Layton. He may or may not have enjoyed the day. Nick, did you enjoy the convo?
The convo was fine. The day was okay.
Well, to send us off in that way, you were right. Hopefully this brightens your day. You were right. You were right. And it pains me to say this. Anyway, that's been it for the Esports Meta. Thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you here next time.